John Mekrut, welcome to Brain Summit.
Happy to be here.
You are a biofeedback and neurofeedback provider with an office in Studio City, California. And before that, you spent 25 years representing actors and writers in Hollywood. So I want to hear what brought you into neurofeedback. But first, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today.
It is my pleasure. I'm delighted to be here and add to the conversation.
Yeah, so let's dig right into how do you make that change? What brings you into the world of neurofeedback?
Well, after 25 years actually of dealing with probably the most dysregulated brains on the planet, people in show business, I think they would probably agree with that sentence. Serendipitously, I ran into neurofeedback through an experience I had with my own daughter. My daughter has autism, and a very lovely person who's unfortunately missed it in my memory as to exactly who it was, suggested that I look at neurofeedback as a possible intervention for her. We'd been doing the traditional allopathic medications, psychopharmacology, behavioral interventions, et cetera, and this person suggested to me that neurofeedback might be a way to get at some of the basic fundamental issues that my daughter was having in controlling her own interfacing with the world. And so, I'd never heard of it, frankly, so I went and did some internet research and et cetera, and talked to a couple of other people and said, yeah, this sounds like it's worth a try, at least. And we were so stunned by the impact that it had on her. Down to really, I think of them as kind of esoteric, but they're not. They're useful. Her handwriting improved. It was things like that. Certainly her behavioral changes were profound. Her ability to regulate her emotions. This was a child who was on any number of antipsychotics and anti-seizure medications and all sorts of a cocktail of stuff with all the horrible side effects, literally to get her to be able to control herself in the moment. And there was a seminal moment for us where we were at a holiday party and we saw the sort of slack-jawed, vacant-eyed expression on her face and said there has to be something better to do. So through neurofeedback training, she gained a real grasp of how she could conduct herself and regulate her own emotions and regulate her cognitive process. And so her academics improved, her ability to pay attention in school and do what was asked of her, her behavioral issues at home improved. It was really an across-the-board global improvement in her function. And I was sold at that moment. I said, this is something I really need to know a lot more about. And I recognized rather quickly that as a parent of a spectrum child, it was going to be a number of sessions. It was going to take a really long time. And I said, why don't I go get the training myself and I'll get involved in this and I'll be able to do it with her at home. It'll be great. And one thing led to another, and I started doing it with my family and my friends, and all of a sudden, you know what? I can leave show business behind now. I've really found something that I think is so transformational for humans that I have to get involved with this industry. And I went to the trainings with the Othmers at EEG Info, which I still do to this day, and slowly but surely got enough confidence for me to open up my own clinic. And I haven't looked back. It's just an amazing and rewarding career. Anybody out there who's interested in helping people, this is a really good one to get involved with.
And it's a beautiful story, and definitely a reason to get involved with the work that you're doing.
She's doing great.
Yeah. Yep. I have seen her on Periscope.
Exactly.
Yeah, she is doing great. You've kind of moved, there are some providers, just like you're a provider, where people can go into their local city, local area to get neurofeedback. A lot of them deal with they specialize in different conditions or whatnot. Neurofeedback helps with a lot of things. But you more are interested in peak states, spirituality, consciousness. So the people who come in your door are more inclined to not be solving an issue that they have, even though that's common with neurofeedback. They're looking for something more out of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can view brain performance, I think, as a spectrum. It ranges from people troubled with some kind of symptomatology, something they're really struggling with, sleep disorders, ADD, and what have you, all the way out to the really the highest levels of peak performance. Sports teams, professional athletes of all sorts, academic pursuits, military applications. If you're going to be a sniper, you want to have your focus and attention abilities, fine-tuned to a level that you and I perhaps don't need. But on a continuum of performance, it ranges all the way up through that. That's just and that's just the sort of physiological part. Then there's the exploration that we've all been doing for thousands and thousands of years. Who are we? What is our internal spirit? I mean, the Buddhists have talked about this, and any number of religions in the world have talked about being aware of your inner sensibilities and how to access them, how to find and sit quietly and discover who you are. Neurofeedback, there are a couple of different ways of approaching neurofeedback, but the deep state work that I do and many others lends itself so beautifully to that. Here's a technological assist in a way to a state that is very difficult to find, probably increasingly difficult in our culture. We're a culture bombarded with all kinds of input from television and our friends and Facebook and whatnot, and emails and messaging and all the things that bombard us every day. It's very hard to find a quiet time space to put yourself into that reflective moment that you need. It's required to really fulfill your human potential, to find out who you are. So I look at neurofeedback and the way that the deep state work can unfold for people as being a lovely, easy to use technologically assisted way. It's still at the end of the day you and yourself looking inward, but a technological hint towards how to gain that state of mind. There are a lot of meditators, I'm sure, watching this. Hopefully, will be watching this show. I take nothing away from your practice. It's brilliant and hard to do for a lot of people. So if I can help provide somebody a kind of a gateway into that world where they can then more successfully do it on their own, they don't have to necessarily need the technology all the time, but to be able to understand what that state feels like. This is a lovely bridge into that world. And it is profoundly rewarding for me to work with people like that who come in the door. They don't have ADD. They just want to be better. They just want to be better people, better spirits, better souls, can be able to understand who and what they are and how they connect to the rest of us.
What do you say to people who are thinking right now, well, I know my beliefs and I know where they are and I don't want them to change. What if I go in there and it changes me from a Christian to a Buddhist?
Right. I don't think neurofeedback is going to change anybody's spiritual structure. I think it's going to enhance whatever path you're on. The connection that we all need to make between our inner lives and our outer lives is what's at stake here. And however you get to that, I mean, people come in here and talk about, their struggles with spirituality. I go, listen, neurofeedback is just one of the ways. Prayer is another one. Meditation is another one. Smudging, sweat lodges, anything that will give you the psychic locus to put yourself in that state. Go for it. This is just one of them. I think it's a lovely one. I think it's really easy to use. But anyone that works for you is terrific. But no, I don't think it's going to change anybody's belief systems on how they think of themselves in their spiritual lives. It's just going to aid in that revelation, to use a Christian word.
Yeah. There you go. And you see couples too. I think it's interesting it's hard to keep relationships together. It's hard, period. It's hard in these times. I think that would be very interesting to come in as a couple and do that inner work together.
Yes, there's a wonderful program, and I give a lot of credit to a lot of the pioneers who've been doing this work. Jim Hart, who I know is a guest on your program, or Les Femi, Dr. Femi, in New Jersey. I mean, these are men who've been doing inner work using neurofeedback for decades. We're talking going back to the 60s and 70s in some cases. Les Femi developed a synchrony program probably 30 years ago. It's analog, for goodness sakes. That's how old it is. Where two people can be hooked up together and their brain waves can be encouraged to promote synchronous behavior between the two of them. And the psychological and emotional benefits for two people being able to understand their synchronistic moments are wonderful to watch. I mean, it's a connection that is, you can't make verbally, you can't make it in any other way. This is direct brain to brain conversation, which is almost unfathomable. 50 years ago, people would have laughed. But here we are today in the 21st century. This is going to be much more popular and much more available over the next five or 6 years. I know there's several people. Mikey Siegel is working on a multi-person brain synchrony program where half a dozen people could put themselves into a synchronous state. Imagine how wonderful meditation could be enhanced when you understand that you're literally, your brainwaves are connected with the others sitting with you. There's some really, I think, some transformative possibilities on the very near horizon. This is not very far away. Mm-hmm. This technology is right around the corner, and it's going to explode.
Yeah, it is. We're seeing that in the market, which we'll talk about in just a minute, but this collective healing, this collective consciousness. Jim Hart spoke about a collective brain. We're all speaking about the same thing.
Yeah.
We are all connected.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. And it's something that, it's something we've struggled with culturally, I think, for, I don't know how long, at least 100 years. Let's put it back to the Industrial Revolution, perhaps. But we used to be more connected to the earth. We used to be connected to our food supply. We used to be connected to our community. And with the changes in the world structure and the differences, the cities, the people moving away from the land, and all of that has fragmented our spirit in many ways. And we've all been seeking that, and from a variety of perspectives. People have taken psychedelics. People have done lots of things to try to recreate that sense of community. And I think we're at a place now where we can not be so scared of using some of this technology to enhance us in that regard. I think there's a lot of folks who think, oh, well, that's not the right way to do it, whatever that means. My attitude is whatever gets you there is whatever gets you there. Use whatever tool is at hand. These are just tools. Our technology should be in service of our spiritual pursuits and should be in service of our mental and physical health. We have them. Let's use them. Let's figure out new and novel ways to put them together. I know we've talked before about the connections of technology could be, it's hard to imagine. Could we think of a way that a new digital sense could be formed by our interactions with technology between artificial intelligence and connecting our brains to the internet? Could we come up with a sixth or seventh or eighth sense? Sure. Why not? Why are we limited to just the 5 that are contained in our physical bodies? We're now dealing in a wholly different world. I think virtual reality is going to open up some really interesting and profound doors for us, for our experiences and how we can improve our spirit.
I do too. I mean, we're even looking at telepathy in the labs through, computer-based, through EEG. It's amazing what we can do, what we can feel, what we can know, and it's still very early, like you said.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be as dark as the Matrix. If we keep our wits about us, we can actually use this technology for good.
Right. One of the examples I always give people is, because it's always this privacy thing. Well, if we know too much about each other, if we feel too much, if we sense too much, then we lose our privacy. But I think about an elderly parent or a grandparent or something that's living by themselves, and we can have technology whether it's on a wearable, that I talked about this. They're rudimentary now. They'll get down to a point where it's, you don't even know it's there. Sensing where they are in their health. Are they okay? How are they feeling? Do they have anxiety? Are they scared? Did they fall down? and we'll be able
Exactly.
to sense, and we'll be able to change the environment around them,
Exactly.
and even send them signals to help them feel better, to help calm their heart response, to help bring up that feeling of love and connectedness. These
Exactly.
are the wonderful things. And yes, you give up a little bit of privacy, but what you gain is a connection that we really can't even wrap our brains around just yet.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think with you, with the child with autism when she was young, the ability to have these types of monitors or whatever that we're going to see, and be able to give her that feedback and help her feel safe wherever she is in the world, no matter how much distance is between the two of you.
Yeah, and you think of people who are struggling with outside world connections, even more profound than autism, for that matter. I mean, if we can technologically enhance people's ability to connect using our tools at hand, of course we should. Of course we should. People shouldn't be confined to wheelchairs and disconnected from the world if there are tools at hand to be able to help them.
And when we're talking about these different sixth and seventh and eighth senses that we can't, again, wrap our brains around just yet, we're almost there. You think about the terror in the world and the unrest in the world and how all of that is predicated on miscommunication. It's all a call for love. And there is just a misunderstanding. And the fact that we could create technology that helps us communicate between cultures, between countries, between religions, between races, in a way that there aren't any mistakes, and I didn't realize what you were saying, or I thought you meant this. On a grander scale, when we come to terrorism, we're going to see a calming of that. We're going to see a great reduction in that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the struggle of language has plagued us for centuries, for eons. It's what I mean by blue is not necessarily what you mean by blue. So when you take that out into much more, difficult concepts, it's a struggle. If we can figure out how to directly engage to people, oh, I see what you mean. Now I see it. Oh, it's coming sooner or later. Probably not in my lifetime, but it would be glorious to be
It
able
is coming.
instantly be able to understand what another person is actually perceiving.
Yeah. Think of how many fights we will no longer have.
Exactly.
It will be great. So there's a lot of technology out there. There's a field that's called transformational technology, spiritual technologies. These types of things are popping up. Let's talk a little bit about what else is out there that people who want to search for something more in life or within them that might be available to them.
Well, I mean, I think of neurofeedback probably as the primary transformational technology. I mean, it's a large and loosely grouped. But when you realize that you can quite simply, and we're at I'll qualify all of this by saying we are still at a fairly rudimentary understanding of all of it. Anybody who tells you how the brain works is probably kidding themselves because we really don't. We have some basic ideas and we're learning new things every day, and our technology is still relatively unsophisticated in the way we approach how we get our signals and what we're doing with them and how we're dealing with it. Having said all of that, the technology is pretty transformational. I sit and I work with a client, and I have to step back every now and again and realize just how magical it is what I'm doing. I'm showing a human being their real-time brain activity. It's kind of bizarre. It's the first time in history that this has ever happened. So the mirror that they're seeing, the screen that they're looking at as they're doing a training, is their actual brain activity. How wonderful. It's light years from where it was, but it's crude ultimately. It's going to get so much better. So I mean, and the new technologies that are popping up, that we're starting to see the biosensing data, biosensing wearables, and all this stuff. We're not sure where it's all headed. I can see easily probably some kind of a haptic suit thing. It's going to be clothing that you wear. It has to be instantaneously available and actionable information. Data that you have to look at 4 hours later is kind of useless. I mean, it's nice to know where you were 4 hours ago, but you need to know where you are now and what you can do about it right in the moment. If your stress levels are rising in your body, you need an immediate notification that that's happening that you may not be able to perceive with your current sensory awareness. You may not notice that your face is flushed or that your blood pressure has gone up. But if there's a device that's going to clue you into that, and you've got cardiovascular disease and you need to avoid higher blood pressure, you need a signal right away. Take a moment, take a few breaths, calm yourself down. Get back to your the rhythm that's going to keep you healthy and alive, and then going further, finding the spiritual connections with other people for using this technology is going to dramatically unfold. Lots of ways to use this. Just lots and lots of ways.
Something too that you and I have talked about before is there's this push for data.
Yeah.
And data is great. We can wear these wearables and we have all this data and it goes to our smartphone. The issue is that does us no good and overwhelms us when we're already busy enough. We already have enough.
Right.
Unless we can do something immediately with it to benefit us.
Right. Exactly.
Emotionally, physically, whatnot.
Exactly.
So self-regulation, is usually the goal, but health, sleep, these types of things. So when these companies, there's a lot who are either putting something out there that, in my opinion, I don't see a lot that excites me just yet.
No.
Right? It's like it's not there.
No.
It's there, but it's like, oh, you didn't get my mood.
No, we're still 1.0.
Yeah.
1.2. We're not at 2.0 yet.
Right. And
But a lot of people are working on it though. So as the technology improves, which it will dramatically over the next 3 or 4 years. This isn't going to take that long.
Mm-mm.
This isn't going to take that long.
No, and
you're on point in terms of the information that you need. There's a wonder. I won't give a plug. There's a company that promotes a particular product where they have a security guy in a bank. Everybody's ducking for cover, and why didn't you tell us? He said, well, no, I'm just a security monitor. I'm not a security guard. I'm just here to tell you that there's a bank robbery. And he looks around, he goes, there's a bank robbery. So our devices need to do more than monitor. To the music commercial, forgive my laughing. But our devices need to be more than just monitors. They have to actually give us something to do right away. It's got to be instantaneous and actionable. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless. So, although I own a Fitbit, I'm not sure what I'm doing with that information except, I didn't sleep very well last night. I need to figure out how to sleep better tomorrow night. And right. It's not giving me that. So that's the 1.0 part, which is fine. It's a start. It's an entry point for people who are not used to understanding how it is they slept. They have no idea how they slept. They woke up 8 hours, 7 hours, 6 hours later, and they have no idea what their sleep stages were. At least you're getting some, oh, boy, that was bad, as they look at the little graph. Now what is it you're going to do about it? So we need to find more of these strategies to take that information and bring people into, okay, this is what you need to do about it.
Yeah. I agree. I love those wearables for getting people aware of how much they're moving or how little they're moving.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, for instance, with the sleep, or if we're giving, feedback on our heart rate and all of that, we need to then be able to do something with it. It makes it better.
Right.
It needs to be instant. Or in the moment, real time.
Right. And I'm starting to think of what I do, neurofeedback training, biofeedback training. I'm starting to think of myself more of as like a fitness coach. Like you go to the gym, you have a gym membership. If you really want to get good at this, you're going to hire a coach. You're going to have somebody come in and show you really how to do it, and to help you find the motivation so that you'll continue to do it when he or she is not there to coach you. So I'm starting to think of myself more as that. I'm not. People come to me often confused. Well, what is this treatment? What do you do? It's not a treatment. I am here to provide you the opportunity for your self-awareness to take hold of your mental and physical health. I'm the coach. I'm the guide. I have this. I have some machinery, and that's all good. But and at the end of the day, it's you are healing yourself. I mean, I think that's been true forever. I mean, healing is all self-healing. The doctor doesn't heal you; you heal yourself. He provides the means, sometimes the surgery, the medicines, whatever it might be, to promote your self-healing. But at the end of the day, it's you. Same in my world. It's I can help people find the place that they need to look to see what it is that they need to do. Um, the knowing that you walked 10,000 steps is interesting, but what gets you up out of the chair to do the 10,000 steps? That's the important part. The result is great, but the motivation, the desire to change, the willingness to do it, and the availability of the knowledge of how to do it. So you put all those things together, which is why I'm very interested in tying together so many aspects of health. I'm working with an integrative psychiatrist, someone I know. We're putting together a network of nutrition, of mental, if needs be, therapeutic counseling, of neurofeedback, of biofeedback. You put all these things together into a package, and people are going to get well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to encourage people to de-silo a lot of this information. A lot of us, we go to an internist, we go to a pediatrician, we go to an ENT guy, we go to this, that, and the third guy. There's 15 specialists we all go to, are each dealing with their specialty using an allopathic model. But let's try to integrate it. Let's try to understand that someone's health, mental and physical health, is completely integrated. If you eat garbage,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how much therapy you do, you're probably not going to have a good mental state. And I say that to people who come in here. You want to do neurofeedback? How's your diet? It's the first question I ask. Is if you're eating junk food, I can train you an awful lot. It's going to be really hard to get a lot of improvement if you're feeding yourself with garbage. So it has to be a conversation about putting the whole package together and acknowledging and reinforcing the fact that it is the person themselves doing this. They're the ones that are going to make the changes. I'm not fiddling with a brainwave to fix something. This is a holistic portrait of you, person, taking charge of your own mental and physical health and wanting to be better. Because there's a desire part of it. I'm not fixing your brain. I'm not changing your brain waves. Harkening back to your other question about changing someone's, spiritual practice, or changing somebody's religion. It's not about that. You are who you are. We're just going to wrap it in a better frame for you and make it perform better.
Yeah, that's an excellent way to put it. I believe, as you do, when you have something you're dealing with, there are multiple angles that you need to attack from, that you need to address.
Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, what's an integrative psychiatrist?
Somebody who, well, here's an interesting one that I discovered actually in my conversations with him and others. You know what the word psychiatrist actually means in Greek? Soul healer. And most people have a perception of psychiatrists as the guy you go to get your Xanax. It's that's a tragic reality of our medical system, is that most psychiatrists can't make any money anymore doing what they were taught to do, which is talk therapy primarily. So they've been relegated to being med check guys, and it's tragic because so many of them are so gifted. But just to use him, he's not the only one. He came out of this particular man came out of the Dan Siegel Mindfulness School, and he's well versed in a holistic approach to what I've been talking about, how to put someone's soul together. And soul healing is not just necessarily sitting and talking about your tragic childhood or your current state of your work and your marriage. It's not just that. It's nutrition. It's your spiritual life. It's what do you do in the community? How are you involved? How are you connected to others? What's your social life like? I mean, these are all of which have impacts on your physical and mental health. If you are eating terrible food and living alone, out of contact with people, and don't have any particular spiritual awareness in yourself, you're probably not going to be very healthy, mentally or physically. it's not going to go well. So again, circling back to the early conversation about what's happened here over the last 100 years or so, we have to reconnect. We have to get new community. Maybe the digital one is the answer. Everybody, a lot of people my age and older poo-poo it. No, it's just Facebook or whatever. Maybe there's something more real here than people are acknowledging. Maybe this is the new community, and maybe that's okay. Maybe it is okay that it's different. I'm on the internet. Who knew? And I have friends all over the world now. Friends in Australia and Norway and Sweden and Russia. I mean, I never would have thought that would have been possible 20 or 30 years ago. And I can get on Skype with them and have a face-to-face conversation. That's really interesting. It's not pressing the flesh. It's not as good, but it's not bad. It's not bad. And again, like you were saying, it reinforces our interconnectedness. We're all on the same planet. Nobody's getting out. We're all here for the foreseeable future. We got to make this work.
Yeah, we do.
We got to start polluting it, and we got to start fighting with each other, as this is the only ship we've got.
Right. Absolutely.
I didn't actually answer your question about integrative psychiatry, though. Integrative psychiatry only means, I think, that he brings together all of those different aspects. In his office, he has an Ayurvedic doctor. He has a naturopath. He has a trauma specialist. He has a lot of different people that he works with to elicit some of that valuable information for the patients who walk into his practice.
I think that's great. I think it's wonderful, and it's about time that we start seeing this way of treating people.
Exactly.
Okay, so you mentioned biofeedback, neurofeedback.
Right.
Let's talk about the difference.
Biofeedback is the overall frame. Neurofeedback can also be called EEG biofeedback. It is biofeedback using EEG brainwaves. There really is no difference. It's perfectly acceptable to call neurofeedback biofeedback. It is biofeedback. It's just how you derive the signal. You can use heart rate variability, you can use skin conductivity, you can use lots of metrics, blood pressure, all sorts of things, or EEG brainwaves. But they're all biofeedback. You're giving back to the client some measurement of their activity, physical or mental, for their perusal and action.
Right.
Hopefully.
Okay. Because we can't change
if I'm doing it right.
Yeah, if you're doing it, if it's connected, if it's plugged in.
That's right, exactly.
No, I mean, we can't change anything about us unless we are aware.
Exactly.
Of what's going on. So, and you hit on a topic that I love is heart rate variability.
Big fan.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, there are several companies that do it, and several different manufacturers who produce product that work on this. But essentially, it's tying. For the Buddhists, for the practitioners among us, it's pranayama, breathing technique. Essentially, it's breath control. Your breath, your intake and your outtake of breath controls your heart rate. Your heart rate will rise as you intake on your breath, and it will lower as you exhale. And that curve of activity should be nice and smooth. And if it isn't, it can be trained to be smoother. So that variability in your heart rate performance is a very, very viable metric on understanding how well you are. How it's all tied together in a lot of other things, beats per minute, et cetera, et cetera. But that's essentially the idea, is by being able to control and modulate your own breath, you can control the variability of your heart response. Now, what that heart response implies is control over your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, the excitatory system and the inhibitory system. So we're trying to keep those in a balance in your life, because one or the other is either going to put you into a coma or send you into outer space. So we're trying to keep that balance aligned, so that the hormones that are secreted in your body stay in balance. You don't have too much cortisol or too little, or too much adrenaline or too much norepinephrine, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, that's the basics behind it. And yogis have known this for thousands of years. We just discovered it, I don't know, 50 years ago, and went, oh my, how amazing. And now we have technology that can again assist. If you've got 30 years and you want to learn a yogic practice to be sealed up in a box and be able to lower your heart rate, go at it. I don't have 30 years to go to Tibet and learn how to do that. I can learn how to do it in a couple of short weeks in my office and have a take-home product like a heart math. I'll give them a plug that you can take home and do this with. It's brilliant. Really,
HeartMath is a great company.
it's a great company, and
Yeah.
yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, just go out and go on Amazon today and get one. It's an app, it's simple to use.
It's an app. And they
You know,
clip to your ear,
little ear clip, simple.
measures your heart rate variability, and
Yep,
teaches you to do the breathing.
yep,
So you can do it on the go.
yep.
And also, there might be people watching who already have heart rate variability monitor. They don't know it because a lot of times in the what do you call those? With the chest strap.
Yeah, the chest strap. I think even some of the smartphones have them. I think my I've never been able to make it work. The Android has a pulse rate a sensor on the back of the phone.
Okay. All right.
So
Yeah.
there,
So
there,
these
are,
things are
there
out
are
there.
really simple ways to do it.
Right.
But HeartMath's a relative, very inexpensive way to approach this technology. It's quite easy to use and quite powerful.
Yeah. And John and I are not affiliated with HeartMath.
No.
Yeah. But the thing is about it that I like is it's a way for people to get started at home, starting to self-regulate and learn about themselves. Because again, what we don't want to be is metronomes, which is
Right.
beat 1 second, heartbeat 1 second, heartbeat 1 second. We want that variability of the time in between the heartbeats. That means good.
Right.
In simple terms, that's good.
Yep. I use it with clients a lot who are completely unfamiliar with the idea of self-regulation because it's so obvious. They can see their breathing pattern on a screen. Oh, that's what I'm doing. It's clear as a bell. And they can see when they change it, and they can see what happens. They can see how they feel. It's a lovely way, an introductory educational way to get people into it. You can do it with children. Really simple to use. Really simple to use.
It's a wonderful tool to teach children just how to breathe and self-regulate.
Exactly.
Monitor themselves when they are like this, stressed with anxiety at school or whatnot, and be able to just quietly breathe and bring everything back. The more that we practice this, the more automatic it becomes, the more it becomes our default.
Exactly.
And then we talk about the difference between reacting to something and responding, right? And meditation will teach you the pause in between the stimulus and the response. This type of breathing and practice can help people not react to situations, but instead pause and then respond in a way that is healthy for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of the work I do with neurofeedback revolves around right hemisphere training, as we call it. People understand, I think, generally that there's a right and left hemisphere in the brain, and that they're generally, although they are networked, the right hemisphere has different responsibilities than the left hemisphere. And the right hemisphere in our culture seems to be completely overwhelmed most of the time. And a lot of our training revolves around getting the right hemisphere to be more in charge of itself. I use the description of the right hemisphere will react instantly. It's designed that way. It's an evolutionary impetus to keep you safe from harm. It's the reason you'll jump back at a sound or a startling visual. It's designed to respond rather quickly, but it's not always valuable when you're not exactly sure what the thing is. I use the example of road rage. Your right prefrontal cortex will want you to get out of the car or run the guy off the road, before your left prefrontal cortex has a moment to say, maybe he's just a lost German tourist. Maybe he isn't deliberately trying to ruin my day by cutting me off. So it's that balance between those two possibilities. But our right brain is so overloaded at this point, it seems, with an overwhelming amount of sensory data that has to be processed, that I think it's largely overwhelmed. And that's really the focus, I think, of most of our neurofeedback training, is to try to get the right hemisphere to be more in control of itself and less volatile, to give the left hemisphere of the brain a little more opportunity to make a better rational decision about what it actually should do. I don't have to kill the guy.
Right.
He is just a lost German tourist. Or maybe he's just an idiot. And I can let that go. Well, that's his karma.
Those are the things that make our life so much easier when we can process infuriating things like that are just kind of annoying, and there's nothing you can do, and they're going to continue. There's always going to be some guy or gal cutting us off, taking our parking spot. Cutting in line. And it's how we react to them. So when people come into the office looking for maybe a deeper understanding of their spirituality or more fulfillment, maybe they've reached a point in their life where like, okay, I got the job, I have the house, I have the wife or the husband, the kids, whatever it is that they needed. And they say, is this it? Is this all there is? And they come in and they use neurofeedback. What would you say, what do they feel after one session? How many sessions does it take on average? I know everyone's different, but on average.
You've heard me say that too many times.
Yeah, I know you guys. For someone to say, wow, okay, I'm starting to see more of what's coming out of me, what's coming through me, and maybe where I'm going.
Well, I'm talking about the deep state training that we do, synchrony training, and alpha theta state training, another synchronous brain performance tool. As Les Femi describes it, and he's far smarter than I am, but he describes asynchronous brain behavior is the construction of self. It's the brain wave patterns that allow you to identify who you are as opposed to everyone else. Synchronous brain behavior is, as he describes it, a dissolution of self. So it's much more, I think, in the spirit of some of the Eastern philosophical approaches towards the universe. Say it that way. By using deep state, by using synchronous brainwave training, people can lose themselves. They can lose their I in a good way. I mean, it's that the defense mechanisms that we've all constructed around ourselves to be whatever we think we're supposed to be on the planet. Here's an opportunity for 45 minutes or so to let that go, to be able to interact with yourself in a way. It's just you in a chair, but to let go of the ego construction, and and conversely to stand outside it and observe it and kind of dissect it and analyze. Well, why am I doing that? What is the gain in it for me? Can I let that go? Is that a portion of my construction that I don't need? And I think it helps people pare down their refine and pare down, I guess is a good word, but really refine their definition of themselves, of who they are, by letting go, putting down the bags, putting down the baggage that you're carrying. I don't need that one. That's a tote bag. That's an overnight case. I don't need any of that stuff. I just need me. I'm good. I'm enough. And to be comfortable with that feeling is rare. We don't get it a lot. We've got all of this stuff that comes at us that tells us how we should be defining ourselves in work or in relationship or in community or wherever it may be. This is a moment where you can sit with yourself quietly and observantly and really figure out the parts that are true. So that's if that's what you mean by spiritual awareness, that to me is what that deep state training really, really provides. Is just an opportunity to not, there's no conversation. You're not telling me anything. It's not therapeutic. I'm not discussing it with you. It's you and your soul alone with each other in self-reflection. It's amazing.
That's beautiful.
You got to come over and do some more.
I know. I will see you this summer.
Yeah. It's flat out. It's flat out amazing.
For people who want to come and visit with you, it's your practice is called The Balanced Brain,
right? And
you are in Studio City, California. What's the best way for them to find you?
On the internet, certainly, thebalancedbrain.com. That's probably the easiest way.
Yeah.
That's the simplest and easiest. You can Skype me, you can call me. There's lots of things, but just shoot me an email. Yeah. John at the Balanced Brain. I'm around.
Yeah, I highly encourage anyone in California who is in the area to look into working with John, if these are the things that you're looking for, because there is something to be said about the search for something else. And after we achieve a certain amount in life, or we go through a certain amount in life, which happens to us all if we get to a certain age, we start to look at what's next, what is coming, what's after this, and really, what do I need to be fulfilled while I'm here?
Right.
And these are the things that you help as a guide. With technology,
Exactly.
proven evidence-based technology through the Optimers,
Right.
to help people, as you said, align with themselves. It's not your agenda. It's not my agenda. It's not the machine's agenda. It's their
Exactly.
own agenda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. These are self-reflective tools, and that's what they're designed to be. It's what they're meant to be. I think in their philosophy behind them. Especially, there are, your audience should know, there are a lot of different techniques out there.
Mm-hmm.
There are stimulatory techniques. There are, and they can be transformative. ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, is a technique, not one
Yes.
that I want to use, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's a broad range of possibilities, and you need to pick one that fits your soul the best, that feels best for you, that resonates with your particular goals and how you want to approach getting to be the person you want to be, and whatever that may mean. It may mean something as simply as, I just want to sleep better. I
Yes.
work with people every day. They're good. They're done. I don't have to sell them on the idea of becoming more spiritually aware. They just want to get better sleep. Terrific. And there are people who come in who say, I sleep fine. I'm working well. My performance is fine. I have a good life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to be better. I want to go farther. I want to go deeper. I want to see more. I can hook you right up. I can hook you right up. And it's all in there.
Yes.
It's all in there. The universe is as big or as small as you want to think of it. Is the universe in your head? Sure it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is, whether people want to believe it or not.
Yep.
And all of us are in each other's heads too.
Exactly.
I always tell people these technologies and certain ones that I've used and tested. It's interesting how they work. I say that they bring us back to who we were before adulthood got in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And because it is a really profound experience to remember who you were when everything was possible.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's profound. And people who have lost their way,
Yes.
whether they're struggling with traumatic events, let's say,
Yes.
or depression or anxiety, and I keep reminding them, well, how did you feel when you were 4?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wasn't. Oh yeah, I mean that circuitry's still in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone off into its own bad pathways, and those pathways have been reinforced by your experience. But let's unwind all of that. Let's go back to that 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Who looked at the world perfectly with joy. That person's still in there.
Yeah. And it's an amazing life to live when you can look at the world like that again. Thank you for being here with me today.
It is my pleasure. It is
having
my pleasure.
This conversation and letting it flow. Once again, this is John Mekrut, Mekrut, and it's thebalancedgrain.com. And I encourage you, if you're in the California area, to go knock on John's door and just get hooked up to the machine. Try it out. See what you think. John, thank you.
A pleasure. Thank you so much.